Now, picture a toddler, 18 months old, bright eyes, full of energy. Their parents hands them a phone, a YouTube video, a cartoon, a game. The child goes quiet. They go calm, they focus, and the parent exhales. Finally, 5 minutes of peace. Now, this scene happens in millions of homes every single day, all over the world, in every culture, in every income bracket. And nobody told those parents what prolonged screen time during those critical early years might be quietly doing to their child's developing brain. Today, I want to have that conversation with you, and not to shame anyone, not to create any sort of panic, but because a growing body of research is pointing to something that every parent of a young child needs to know about. It is called virtual autism, and a landmark study published just this month, May of 2026, by the All India Institute of Medical Sciences has added urgent new weight to this conversation. Okay, real quick before we delve into the content of the day, I checked my analytics and 98% of you are watching without subscribing. You know who you are. I would like to ask you to hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, and drop a comment telling me what topic you want me to cover next. I read every single one of your comments. If you're done with that, that is perfect. Thank you. My name is Dr. Libeya Bethwell, your pharmacist, and this is one of the most important conversations happening in pediatric health right now. So let's begin the conversation, and I'll start with the definition because the name itself causes confusion to many people. Now, the term virtual autism was coined by a Romanian psychologist. His name is Marius Zamfir, to describe behavioral abnormalities in children aged 0 to 3 that arise from sensory motor and socioaffective deprivation caused by exposure to virtual environments for more than 4 hours daily. In plain language, virtual autism describes a situation where a young child develops symptoms that look remarkably similar to autism spectrum disorder, not because of genetics or neurodevelopment in the traditional sense, but because of the excessive screen exposure during the most critical window of brain development. And like autism spectrum disorder, which is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition, virtual autism is thought to be temporary and may improve significantly when screen time is reduced. Now, this distinction is enormously important, and I want to be very clear about it. Virtual autism does not mean your child has autism. It does not mean screens cause autism. Autism spectrum disorder is primarily a genetic neurodevelopmental condition, and screens do not cause it. What screens can do in excessive quantities during the earliest years of life is produce symptoms that closely mimic autism. Symptoms that in many cases reverse when screen time is removed and real-world interaction is restored. Now, that difference between a permanent neurological condition and a reversible developmental response is the reason this topic deserves urgent attention. Now, a significant study published in May 2026 by the All India Institute of Medical Science revealed a concerning link between excessive screen time in early childhood and the development of autism, like symptoms by the age of 3. Now, the research highlights that infants exposed to prolonged digital engagement, talk about smartphones, tablets, and television, are at a higher risk of showing delays in social communication and sensory processing. Now, in India, doctors have started observing this phenomenon widely. At one center, over 70% of autism-like cases showed links to excessive screen exposure. Research indicates that excessive screen time in young children is associated with developmental and behavioral issues resembling autism spectrum disorder, including language delays, social challenges, emotional instability, and attention problems. And the threshold that keeps appearing in the research is 4 hours per day in children under 3 years old. Some researchers, alarmed at climbing autism rates among children as screen usage surged, have come around to viewing virtual autism as a real syndrome that is reversible. Now, this is not settled science. Virtual autism is not yet an officially recognized medical diagnosis, but the weight of evidence is building, and pediatricians and developmental specialists around the world are taking it seriously enough to change their clinical guidance. Now, why does this affect every young children so specifically? Why does the same screen exposure that is largely harmless to a 10-year-old have such a different potential impact on a 1-year-old? The answer is brain development. The first 3 years of life are the most intensive period of brain development a human being ever experiences. Now, neural connections are forming at a pace that will never be replicated. The brain is building the architecture of language, the social understanding, emotional regulation, and sensory processing, and is doing so simultaneously in real time. And here is what the brain needs to build that architecture correctly: real human interaction, eye contact, responsive conversation, touch, physical exploration of the environment, back and forth social engagement, what developmental scientists call serve and return. When a parent speaks to a baby and the baby calls back, that is serve and return. When a toddler points at something and the caregiver names it, that is serve and return. These exchanges are the building blocks of language, social understanding, and emotional intelligence. A screen cannot do serve and return. A screen speaks. It does not listen. It does not respond to the child. It does not adjust based on what the child does. It is a one-way flow of stimulation, fast, bright, and loud, with no social reciprocity. Excessive screen time is correlated with negative effects on cognitive and motor development, learning and memory, emotional regulation, and overall health. Now, the developing brain, deprived of the human interaction it needs and flooded instead with passive digital stimulation, may begin to show the very deficits in social communication that we associate with autism spectrum disorder. Not because the child has autism, but because the brain was not given what it needed to develop those skills during the window when it was designed to build them. What does virtual autism actually look like in a child? Here are the signs that researchers and clinicians are identifying that you may want to pay attention to. Signs including poor eye contact, speech delays, and social withdrawal. Most specifically, a child who used to make eye contact but has stopped. A child who is not developing language at the expected pace or whose language has regressed. A child who prefers screens to people, who does not respond to their name being called, who does not engage in imaginative play, who has emotional outbursts that seem disproportionate, who is overstimulated by ordinary sensory input. Now, these are the same signs that will prompt a developmental pediatrician to assess for autism spectrum disorder. Now, the critical clinical question, the one that changes the entire approach, is this: did these symptoms appear in a child with heavy screen exposure, and do they improve when screen time is reduced? If yes, virtual autism must be considered alongside a formal developmental assessment. Here is your practical guidance as your pharmacist. First, know the guidelines. The WHO recommends no screen time whatsoever for children under 2 years old. For children aged 2 to 5, a maximum of 1 hour per day of high quality interactive content, ideally watched together with a caregiver. Now, these are not overly cautious suggestions. They are evidence-based thresholds. Secondly, replace screens with serve and return. Talk to your child constantly, even before they can talk back. Name objects. Describe what you're doing. Sing. Read physical books, get on the floor and play with them. Now, these interactions are doing something that no screen can replicate. They are building your child's brain. Thirdly, if you're worried, seek assessment. If your child is showing signs of developmental delay, whether they have significant screen exposure or not, please seek a formal developmental assessment. Virtual autism and autism spectrum disorder require very different approaches. Only a qualified developmental specialist can tell the difference. Do not wait, because early intervention for both conditions produces the best outcomes. Every month matters in the first 3 years. Fourthly, be kind to yourself. Screens became digital babysitters because modern parenting is exhausting, because caregivers are overwhelmed, because sometimes you genuinely need 5 minutes. Now, this conversation is not here to make you feel guilty for every time you handed over a phone. It is here so that going forward, you can make more informed choices with the full picture in mind. Now, virtual autism is not a diagnosis written in stone. It is a warning, a signal from your child's developing brain that it needs more of you and less of the screen. The good news, and it is genuinely good news, is that for most children, the effects are reversible. Reduce the screens, increase the human connection, seek support where needed, and the brain, in its remarkable plasticity, can find its way back. Share this video with every parent of a young child you know, not to alarm them, but to inform them, because the most powerful thing a parent can have is the right information at the right time. Remember to drop a comment below and tell me how much screen time does your child currently get, and tell me what topic also you want me to cover next. Subscribe if you have not already. Tap the bell. I'm Dr. Libeya, your pharmacist. Your child's brain is built in these early years.